once again, you know, I've said many times, one of the things I've learned from Jeff Baskin is that as important as books are, a library should be more than just a building full of books. He has always believed and has convinced us that it needs to be a living, breathing part of the community and should get involved in things that in the past perhaps libraries have never gotten involved in. But every time he calls and says, I have a new idea, first thing I do is reach down and see if my wallet's still there. And then the second, I think how all of the other ideas he has had has turned out, and they've all turned out well. This room, the room next door, this entire floor, you know, are improvements that we have made under his leadership and the leadership of the Board of Trustees. We constantly try to live up to the trust that's been placed in us by the mayor, the city council, the business community, and of course the people of North Little Rock. The other night when we unveiled this photography exhibit, Dr. Rob Lambert, an old friend of mine and a former member of the board, was talking about when he was on the board. And he said, yeah, I remember Jeff used to come to me with new ideas and said, I remember he came to me with something called the internet. And he said, I had no idea what that was. You know, it's just an ongoing thing that I think, and I agree with Jeff on, a library has to be a part of the community. It has to be alive, it has to be breathing, and it has to not be afraid to push the envelope on some things that they might not have done before. So with that in mind, I want to introduce our Executive Director, the true force behind this library, Mr. Jeff Baskin.
Thank you. I guess now I have to live up to that. Writing is something everyone thinks they can do. But good writing is a talent, fine writing an art, and writing that someone will actually read is a gift. The William F. Laman Public Library Writers Fellowship aims to encourage gifted Arkansans in their efforts to write and to publish. Each year, an independent group of literary professionals will select the fellows based on the creative excellence of their work in fiction, nonfiction, or poetry. The fellowship will be awarded the first quarter of each year. This year, it is my honor to announce the first William F. Laman Public Library Writers Fellowship award of $10,000 to Mr. Grif Stockley. Grif has published 10 books, including 6 novels that he categorizes as lawyers' mysteries, and is also widely known for his nonfiction work on race relations in Arkansas. He was inducted into the Arkansas Hall of Fame in 2001. He won the Booker Worthen Prize also in 2001, and has twice won the Ragsdale Award from the Arkansas Historical Association for Best Book on Arkansas History. His article on the Negro Boys Industrial School fire won both the Walter L. Brown Award from the Arkansas Historical Association and the Mary Worthen Award by the Arkansas Library Association. To top this all off, if you research Grif Stockley in the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, you'll come up with 28 results. If you search me, you won't come up with one. And the details of a life well lived. With that, I would like to introduce Griffin Jasper Stockley, Jr., what a mouthful, Arkansas author, historian, and attorney, known for his lifelong commitment to the cause of civil rights, and the first Laman Public Library Writers Fellow, Grif Stockley.
Let me begin by thanking Jeff and the Board of Directors for making this fellowship possible. It is a great honor, but also a responsibility to be the recipient of such a fellowship at any time, but to be the first I recognize is a special honor. I'd like to take a minute or two to try to explain as best I can what this annual fellowship means to me. as someone who has increasingly written about race relations in Arkansas, I know how sensitive this topic is to all of us, whether we care to acknowledge it or not. Because of our past history and our failure in many instances to try to tell it honestly and completely as possible, it is my view as a writer and historian, it is necessary to begin by acknowledging how far we have missed the mark in writing about our racial past. All writers, of course, are bound by our time and place and can only strive for objectivity and honesty. But the truth is that, especially in the South, all our lives have been marred and in so many instances devastated by a commitment to white supremacy. And that has been reflected in many, many ways, not just in writing history. My view as a writer is that a writer has only one moral duty, and that is to write as truthfully and as well as possible. The Laman Fellowship makes that attempt possible. There are no strings attached, no politically correct agenda to follow, no dissertation committee to satisfy, no teachers to please, no faculty members to vote on tenure, no pre-approved historiography to consciously or unconsciously censor one's methodology. Acknowledging this freedom does not make writing a book about the fire at the Negro Boys Industrial School any easier, or any book for that matter, but it does force one to forego any excuses. What is shocking and frankly still unnerving to me is that despite having written repeatedly on the subject of race relations, including a biography of Daisy Bates which covered this time period, I had not heard nor read about the fire at the Negro Boys Industrial School that occurred on March 5, 1959 and killed 21 children who were locked in a dormitory from the outside. I only heard about the fire when I was completing my previous book, Ruled by Race, Black-White Relations in Arkansas from Slavery to the Present. It so happens that the person who brought the fire to my attention is originally from North Little Rock and a brother of Lindsay Cross, who died in the fire. Lindsay's mother and brother are here today, and I'd like to recognize them. They live in North Little Rock. I'm just glad that y'all are here. Thank you for coming. And of course, their story is a part of this book. I was able to go back and include 9 pages about the fire in Ruled by Race, but there is a much larger and complex story to be told about the fire than these 9 pages. One of the questions is, why did this story not get told for almost 50 years until another brother, Frank Lawrence, of one of the victims, came forward? After all, it was the worst fire in Arkansas history until the fire at the Damascus missile site. Another question is, after all the research I have done on Arkansas race relations, why didn't I know about the fire? In my opinion, the answers to these questions and others require a more holistic approach to history than is typically brought to the table by academic historians. So in this book, I'm hoping to explore questions like these, not only from the traditional disciplines of history and politics, but also ethics, religion, psychology, but also from my own personal history as well. I'm going to stop here, and I think we're going to have something else, and maybe we can take some questions from some of you at some point. But again, it is such an honor and pleasure to be